So in the last class we had studied till interested directors. Now in this class we shall be starting with both sanction necessary for certain contracts in which particular directors are interested. Whenever a company has to enter into contract for the sale, purchase or supply of any material, etc. with a director or associate or partner, etc., the consent of the board of directors is must. This consent is required to be obtained by a resolution passed at its meeting. In this case, the consent by means of a resolution passed by circulation is not enough. However, such approval of the board is not required in the following circumstances: where the contract relates to purchase or sale, supply or sale of goods, etc., for cash at the current market price, or where the value of goods services does not exceed rupees 5,000 in the aggregate in any year, and it is an item of regular trade or business of such director, relative, firm, etc., or where the transaction is with or by a banking insurance company in the ordinary course of business. In the circumstances of urgent necessity, however, a company may enter into a contract for the purpose of for the purchase, sale, or supply of any goods, etc., with any director or his relative or partner, etc., even for a value of such goods services exceeding rupees 5,000, without obtaining the consent of the board. But in such case, the consent of the board shall be obtained at a meeting within 3 months of the date on which the contract was entered. If consent is not accorded to any such contract, the contract will be voidable at the option of the board. So, there are certain situations where even the shareholders need to get sanction of the board. Now, why is that important? Because for the people who are dealing with the company, they do not know the exact position, or they do not know what exactly are the rules and regulations of the company. So what they do is they tell the board of directors that they are in a position whether to sanction that or not. So such approval in the following circumstances: there are certain circumstances where the approval of the board is not required, where the contract relates to purchase, sale of goods for cash at the current market prices, or where the value of goods and services does not exceed rupees 5,000 in the aggregate in any year, and it is an item of regular trade or business of such director, relative firm, etc., or where the transaction is with or by a banking or an insurance company in ordinary course of business. So when there are certain circumstances when company does not need to take approval from the board, but there are certain circumstances where it is urgent necessity that the board should approve the decision, and the value for such goods and services which is not exceeding rupees 5,000 without obtaining the consent of the board. And if consent is not accorded to any such contract, the contract shall be voidable at the option of the board in case of companies having a paid up share capital of not less than rupees 1 crore. It is stated that the previous approval of the central government is necessary for entering into any contract with any director or his associate or partner, etc., for sale, purchase or supply of goods or services, etc., whatever its value, and whether cash or otherwise. The failure to obtain such prior permission of the central government will make the contract illegal and void. Disclosure of interest by directors. A director of a company who is in any way, whether directly or indirectly is interested in a contract with the company, is under obligation to disclose the nature of his interest at the board meeting, at which the question of entering into the contract is first considered. If the director becomes concerned or interested in the contract after it was made, he has to disclose his interest at the first board meeting held after he becomes so interested. If the director is a member of a specified firm or a body corporate with which the company intends to transact, he may give a general notice considered as sufficient disclosure of concern or interest in relation to any contract or arrangement so intended to be made. Now, disclosure of interest by the director. So, this provision is very important because whenever a person is selected as a director of the company, he is obliged with the company to give all the answers and to show fair view. That is, he has to see to it that he does not create any undisclosed profit or undisclosed the company. He has to see to it that he has complete interest, and whatever is the interest in the company, he discloses it to the proper authority. And after the disclosure is considered, only then he shall be considered whether when his term shall expire and what all shall be done with him. Then after that, if a director is a member of a specified firm or a body corporate with which the company intends to transact, he may give a general notice to the board disclosing this fact therein, and such a notice shall be considered as sufficient disclosure of concern or interest in relation to any contract or arrangement so intended to be made. Any such general notice shall expire at the end of the financial year in which it is given, but it can be renewed for one more financial year at a time by a fresh notice given in the last month of the financial year in which it would otherwise expire. Such a notice must either be given at a meeting of the board or brought up and read at the first meeting of the board after it is given. Penalty: if a director fails to make proper disclosures as mentioned here and above, he shall be punishable with a fine of rupees 50,000. So, disclosures by director. It is very important that the directors the directors disclose their interest, and the notice of the same shall be given in the financial year to all the concerned people. If the director fails to give the notice, in that case he shall be punishable with a fine of up to rupees 50,000. This is the 50,000 means it will be a value. It can be greater also or smaller also depending upon the disclosures that he makes or he hasn't made. Interested director not to participate or vote in board's proceedings. The interested director cannot take part in discussion or vote on the matter of his interest in the meeting of the board. It is further stated that his presence shall not be counted for the purpose of forming a quorum at the mere time of any such discussion or vote. And if he does not, if he does vote, he knowingly contravenes the provisions of this section, and this shall be punishable with a fine of rupees 5,000. So, whoever is an interested director in any of the transactions, he shall not participate in those transactions. If he participates in those transactions, then he shall be punishable with a fine of rupees 5,000. Duties of directors. The directors of the companies have immense powers which are required to be regulated for the public good as well as for the protection of the investors. Their role in the company management is very important because of wide powers vested in the directors. There may be situations where such powers may be used to capitalize their strategic position in the company to serve their personal interests. There are certain duties which have been imposed upon them to minimize the misuse of their position and powers. If the directors fail to perform their duties, then the company would be entitled to take action against such directors for damage suffered by the company. These duties may be classified into two categories, namely general duties and statutory duties. So now let us understand about the duties of the directors. So directors shall have two duties. One is general duties and second is statutory duties. Now what do you mean by general duties? General duties means his day-to-day functioning, and statutory duties means his compulsory work which has to be carried out by him in a certain period of time. So, general duties of the directors. The general duties of the director are as under: fiduciary duties. The directors are expected to exercise their powers honestly and bona fide for the benefit of the company. Their position in a company is of a fiduciary nature. Fiduciary position means a position of trust and confidence. The goodwill of the director helps the company to procure funds, and in the investors and creditors repose trust and confidence in the directors, and therefore it becomes the duty of the directors to act in good faith so as to protect the interests of the present and future members of the company. Therefore, directors are not supposed to make secret profits. So, he is in a fiduciary position. Means what? That he is expected to exercise all his powers in a bona fide and a honest manner, and he has to show that the company is having trust and confidence on whatever he is doing, and how the functioning of such director works. So, let us understand with certain cases. um, Cook versus Dex, 1916 AC 554 PC. The facts: three directors of a company carrying on the business of a railway construction contractors obtained a contract in their own name to the exclusion of the company. The directors also procured a resolution of the company ratifying their act by their words as holders of three-fourths of the shares. They have resolved that the company had no interest in the contract. The shareholders of the company brought an action against the directors. Privy Council held it was a breach of trust on the part of the directors of the company. The benefit of the contract belonged to the company, and they were bound to account to the company for it. So the facts were that the three directors were carrying on a business of a railway construction, and they procured a resolution of company ratifying their act by their words as holders of three-fourths of the shares, and they resolved that the company had no interest in the contract. The shareholders of the company brought an action against the directors. So, duty of care, skill and diligence. While performing their duties, the directors must take reasonable care of and exercise such degree of skill and diligence as is reasonably expected of persons of their knowledge and status. Here, extraordinary care is not expected from the directors while performing his functions as a director, but he should take that much care only which a man of ordinary prudence would take in his own case. However, a director cannot be held responsible for mere error of judgment if he acts honestly and with reasonable care. The directors are required to adhere to the standards of reasonable care. If they fail to do that, they would be held liable for negligence. If company suffers any loss on account of the negligence of directors, they will have to compensate the company. So, duty of care, skill and diligence. While performing their duties, directors must take reasonable care and act in such a way that they exercise their power with a reasonable care and diligence, and is expected of persons of their skill and status. Then extraordinary care is not expected from the director, but he has to take care and he has to see that he works as if it is his own company. And if there is a mere mistake, that is a small mistake, and if he is found guilty or if he is found that he hasn't committed that, in that case company shall take reasonable care of the company, care of the directors. Power of court to grant relief. If in any proceeding for negligence, default, breach of duty, misference of breach of trust against the director of a company, it appears to the court that he is or may be liable in respect of such acts, but that he has acted honestly and reasonably, and have in regard to all the circumstances of the case, he ought fairly to be excused. The court may relieve him either wholly or partly from his liability on such terms as he may think fit. So, powers of the court to grant relief. If any proceeding for negligence or default or breach of duty, misference of breach of trust against the director of the company, if any such kind of thing is appeared to the company, then in that case all the company directors shall be held, and they shall check whether each of them is interested, how much he is interested. Then they shall take the reviews and check whether he has acted honestly and reasonably, and he has to fairly be excused by the court. Now next, duty not to delegate. The maxim delegatus non protest delegare is applicable to the directors as they are agents of the company. The meaning of the above maxim is the delegates cannot further delegate. That means a director cannot delegate his authority to someone. The reason lies in the agency because shareholders have repose trust and confidence in him while appointing him as a director. However, in the following cases, a director can delegate his authority if it is permitted by the Companies Act or articles of the company, or where the business agencies require that certain functions may be delegated to some other officials of the company. So, duty not to delegate. So, the company states that the delegates cannot further delegate anyone. That means that the director cannot give his authority to someone. The reason lies in the agency because shareholders have to have a trust and confidence on him as a director and not on the other person to whom they have delegated his authority. Director can delegate his authority if it is permitted by the Companies Act or articles of the company. Then, where business exigencies require that certain functions may be delegated to some other officials of the company. Then next we have statutory duties of the directors. Statutory duties are the duties and obligations which are required to be performed under the provisions of the Companies Act. Some of them are as under: duty not to make allotment of share capital to the public for subscription until the minimum subscription is raised. Duty to file return of allotments with registrar within a period of 30 days. Failure to perform his duty will attract a penalty for each default of ₹1,000 for each day during which such default continues, or ₹1 lakh whichever is less under section 39(5). So, now what are the statutory duties of a director? Firstly, duty not to make allotment of share capital to the public for subscription until minimum subscription is raised. Then second, duty to file return of allotments with the registrar within a period of 30 days, and if he fails to do so, default of ₹1,000 for each day during which such default continues, or ₹1 lakh whichever is less. Then duty not to issue irredeemable preference shares or shares redeemable after 20 years. So he cannot issue, or he is not supposed to issue or do anything which is beyond his powers. Duty to sign annual reports, annual returns and certificate attached thereto. Duty to prepare financial statement and lay before the company with the director's report as the state of the company's affairs. Duty to disclose interest. A director who is directly or indirectly concerned or interested in a contract or arrangement of the company is under an obligation to disclose the nature of his interest at a meeting of the board of directors. This disclosure should be made at a first meeting of the board held after he has become interested. Duty of such interested director not to participate or vote on any transaction or contract or discussion on the matter of his interest. Duty to disclose receipt from transfer of property. When directors receive money from the transferee in connection with the transfer of the company's property or undertaking, they must disclose this fact to the members of the company and get it approved by the company in general meeting. Duty to disclose receipt of compensation from transferee of shares. Duty to convene the statutory annual general meeting AGM and extraordinary general meeting sections 96 and 100. The duty to prepare and place before the AGM the financial statement of a report on the company's affairs, including the report of the board of directors. Duty to authenticate and approve the annual financial statement. Duty to appoint first auditor or auditors of a company at the first annual general meeting of the company. Duty to appoint cost auditors of the company with the previous approval of the central government. Duty to make a declaration of solvency in case of a member's proposal to wind up voluntarily. It is to be noted that the list of duties of directors given here above is illustrative and not exhaustive. So these are few duties which are mentioned. So remember that all the duties or anything which is mentioned in the act shall not be directly applicable. Some things may be applicable, some things may not be applicable. Some things which are applicable shall be according to the articles of association of the company or memorandum. Whatever is stated in the articles and memorandum, the director shall act accordingly. Now, next we shall be studying liabilities of directors. Now, let us understand about liabilities of directors. When the director does something within the scope of his authority, he may be held liable if he acts in good faith. But if the director himself is negligent in performing his duties, or if he fails to act in good faith and does not take reasonable care of discharging his duties, he would be held personally liable for such acts. The director's liability may be civil liability or criminal liability. In case of civil liability, ordinarily a person has to pay compensation to the aggrieved person. However, in case of criminal liability, a director will be held liable for with fine or imprisonment. The liabilities of directors are enumerated under the following categories: liability to the third parties, liability to the company, liabilities for breach of statutory duties, liability for the acts of co-directors, and criminal liability. So now let us understand about the liability of the directors. Now what is the liability of the directors? Liability or to the third parties. Director is liable to the third parties in the following matters. Under the provisions of Companies Act 2013, a director is liable to the third party in the following matters. Firstly, prospectus. If a director fails to state any particulars as per section 26 of the Act or makes any misstatement in the prospectus, he will be held personally liable for damages to the third party. Civil liability for misstatement in the prospectus section 35. A director shall be liable to pay compensation to every person who subscribes for any securities, shares or debentures, etc. on the faith of the prospectus for any loss or damage he may have sustained by the reason of any untrue or misleading statement including therein. Irregular allotment. If allotment is made before minimum subscription is received, any director who is in default for this shall be liable to compensate the company and allottee if loss or damage is sustained. So, firstly, if there is any mistake in the prospectus or if any misstatement, he shall be personally liable for all the damages to the third party. Then civil liability for misstatement in the prospectus. If there is a civil liability, he shall be liable, and if he is able to prove himself or if he is able to show that it is not his mistake, he shall be allowed. Then irregular allotment. If irregular allotment is made before minimum subscription is received, he shall be punishable or he shall be liable for all the loss or whatever damage is to be sustained. Then next, failure to repay application money. Under certain circumstances, the company has to return the application money received from the applicants at the time of issue of shares. If directors fail to pay to do this in the stipulated time, they are jointly and severally liable to repay that money with interest. Fraudulent trading. During the winding up of a company, if it is found that the business of the company has been carried on with the intent to defraud the creditors of the company, and a director is involved in such activity, he may be held personally liable to the outsiders for all or any of the debts of the company. Then next we have liability in case of ultra vires act. Now what do you mean by ultra vires? Ultra vires means anything which is beyond the powers of the company or the director. The director should function within the scope of their authority. If they enter into any kind of business deal which is ultra vires the company or ultra vires the articles, they may be held personally liable for any loss sustained by any third party. This is also termed as liability for breach of warranty of authority. Contractual liability. The directors of a company may enter into a contract and thereby make themselves personally liable to the third parties. So next is contractual liabilities. That is, if they make any contract with the directors of the company, if the directors make any contract with the company, and if they incur any kind of loss, in that case they shall be personally liable for all the damages incurred by this company, by the directors. So with this we stop for this lecture. Then we shall start with liability of the company from the next class.